This goes against everything I was ever taught. Hey guys, what's up? It's Kelly again and welcome back to my channel. I'm gonna talk to you guys today about German mett, which is quite literally raw pork. And then I'm going to show you guys me trying mett for the first time in my life and my reaction to it. So I talked very briefly about mett before in one of my other videos, and from the comment section I learned two different things. One, a lot of Germans don't realize that we don't have mett in the US, and I would dare to say that they were astonished and disappointed. And two, a lot of Americans don't believe that mett is actually raw pork because they can't believe that people are eating raw pork. So I'm hoping that throughout this video I can kind of explain why these two contradicting thoughts are out there. So first, let's start with the US and our conceptions about eating raw pork. If you're German, you might be watching this and thinking, what's the big deal, Kelly? You guys have steak tartare, you have sushi. Why are you making a big deal about eating mett? It's basically just the pork version of these things. Well, most Americans believe that they should never eat raw pork, and that's because it can be a bastion for Trichinella spiralis, which is a worm parasite that causes trichinosis. I don't really want to get too gross here, but basically if a pig ingests meat infected with larval cysts, the meat of the pig becomes infested as well, and if a human eats the pig either raw or undercooked, the human will become infected with trichinosis. So the best way to avoid trichinosis is by adequately cooking the pork. Because of this, Americans don't consume raw pork in any fashion, and I was always taught by my parents to make sure there's no visible pink spots in my pork, or to use a meat thermometer to ensure the meat has been cooked to the proper temperature, much like what you do with chicken. So I personally have never seen raw pork meant for raw consumption for sale in the US. Maybe if you go to a very special market or a special ethnic market, maybe they have it for sale there, but you would really have to seek it out. It's not commonly seen in the US. I can't walk down the street and find a butcher selling raw pork meant for raw consumption. Then I moved to Germany, and very soon after I moved to Germany, somebody told me that Germans eat raw pork, but I'll be honest with you guys, I wrote this person off. I thought this was a fallacy because it sounded so bizarre to me. I had a really hard time understanding it because it contradicted everything that I knew about consuming pork. I lived in the city of Mainz when I lived in Germany, and I just really never came across mett when I was living there. I'm sure that there is mett for sale in Mainz, but I went to the grocery store to buy all of my meat, so I never went to a butcher. And honestly guys, if I saw mett for sale, I probably wouldn't have understood what it was. I would have just thought that it was ground up pork meant to be taken home and then cooked to be eaten. I would have never guessed that this little chunk of raw pork is meant to be eaten just as it is. So it took quite a few months for me to finally actually encounter mett and realize that this wasn't a myth at all. This is reality. Germans do eat raw pork. As with most things in Germany, mett is highly, highly regulated, and it is because of these regulations that make it safe for consumption. These regulations are contained within the Lebensmittelhygieneverordnung, which is basically a food hygiene health directive. But you know, when I was reading through these regulations, there really wasn't anything that stood out to me as being dramatically different than the laws in the US. The biggest thing is that fresh mett has to be sold and should be consumed the same day that it's prepared. Of course, we don't have that regulation because we don't have mett, but the reality is we could have mett in the United States, but we would have to overcome this culture of being scared to eat raw pork, which is rooted in quite a bit of history, so I'm not really confident that we will ever overcome it. For many, many years, Americans were absolutely terrified of eating raw meat products and raw pork for fear of contracting trichinosis and a plethora of other really disgusting diseases. And over the past 30 years or so, there have been some very, very serious foodborne outbreaks associated with raw and undercooked beef and poultry, which have made consumers more cautious. And even though most foodborne outbreaks and contamination are from vegetables, beef, and poultry and not pork, I think that the average consumer associates eating any sort of raw meat as a potential hazard. But after learning about mett and what it means to Germany and the cultural significance of it, I think we might really be missing out by having these fears. A lot of Germans will eat mett in the form of Mettbrötchen, which means there's a layer of mett spread out over a bread roll. Oftentimes it'll be garnished with onions and maybe some parsley and also have salt and pepper in it. And I've come to learn that this is very commonly eaten for breakfast in Germany, to the point where some Germans, it's part of their daily routine to stop by their favorite butcher shop or mett vendor and grab some Mettbrötchen. I've also seen photos of these very dramatic displays where mett is formed into a specific shape, whether it be a hedgehog or Justin Bieber, to put out for guests at a party. These seem to have been really popular several decades ago, but they're popping up here and there again, perhaps more ironically than seriously, but either way, it's pretty cool to see these creative designs. There's also a tradition called Mittwoch, which is the custom of eating mett on Wednesday. It's a play on the word Mittwoch, which is German for Wednesday. And then there are these guys, Ralph Peterson and Hack Norris, who 6 years ago posted this YouTube video of them driving along and singing a song they made up entirely centered around the subject of minced meat or hack. And with over 8 million views on this video and several renditions and performances, it's clear that this song has made its rounds. I personally had a flooding of comments on my video where I talk about 8 German things that don't exist in the US, mett of course being one of them, and they were all these comments from Germans encouraging me to try mett the next time that I'm in Germany, telling me how much I'm missing out. Some people even wrote that life without mett is a life not worth living, which I feel like is a very dramatic statement, but it demonstrates how much Germans love their mett. And so I promised in that video that I would try mett the next time I go to Germany. I did that so that I would have to follow through on the commitment. So here it is. I'm gonna show you some footage of me trying mett for the very first time. I was in Munich with my boyfriend over Christmas and we bought some Mettbrötchen for me to try. So you're gonna hear him in the background encouraging me to try it because as you'll see, I was pretty hesitant.
Get it.
I'm so nervous.
Get it.
This goes against everything I was ever taught. I think it's stuck in my teeth. That's a normal thing?
Yeah.
I can see why.
Thing, I'd say. So what's your first impression?
The texture is really hard for me to get over.
Oh, really?
I think it's just because I thought about it a lot.
Yeah.
I'm like really thinking about what I'm eating and I'm still not mentally like accepting what I'm eating. And so the texture is more pronounced than maybe it would have been otherwise. I don't know if the onion really added too much to it, but you're gonna have to eat some of this because now my breath smells really bad. The layer of mett on that Brötchen was so thick, and I thought that maybe it was a bit more overwhelming than it should have been.
Yeah, that's a lot.
That is a thick amount of Mettbrötchen.
I have to admit, the amount makes it or breaks it too. Right? If you put it on too much, it gets a little disgusting.
So I decided to try it again, but this time from the back of the Brötchen because it looked like it was a little thinner.
You can do it like cream cheese, right?
Yeah, that's what I expected it to be like a really thin layer, like like how much you put on cream cheese or peanut butter or butter, but this is like so much. It's still so much even back here. Guys, I tried. I really did. I want to like mett. I want to understand the fanaticism behind mett, but I think the texture of it really threw me off. The look of it, the appearance of it really threw me off. And like I said in the footage, I really was thinking way too much about what I was eating instead of being able to just block all that out and focus on the taste. But I will be trying mett every single time that I go to Germany from here on out. I promise you that. I want to like it, and I feel that if I try it more and more, eventually I will adapt to the taste and the texture and the appearance of it. But more importantly, I encourage any American who is planning a trip to Germany to put all of your fears and concerns and trepidations aside and try mett, because it is a huge part of the German food culture that you can't experience in the US. In the US, we have some really great German restaurants where you can eat schnitzel, you can buy sauerkraut, you can have potato salad, you can find these different types of German cuisine in the US, but you are not gonna find German mett. So please make sure you try it. All right, guys, that's all I've got for you today, but I am very curious about your thoughts on mett. If you're German, I want to know if you like mett or not, because I have learned that there are some Germans out there who absolutely detest mett, which I think is pretty interesting. And then I want to know how you eat mett if you do. So I keep reading about Mettbrötchen, and that's how I kept seeing it in Germany, but I want to know what other ways people are eating mett. And if you're American watching this and you've never tried mett, you've never even heard of it, is it something that you would be willing to try? Do you believe me when I tell you that it's safe to eat this in Germany? And if you're not American or German, I want to know if you have some sort of mett-like dish in your country. Do you guys eat raw pork? And if you do, what do you guys call it? All right, guys, I hope that you liked this video, and if you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, make sure you hit that subscribe button, and if you click the bell, you get notified every single time I post a video. Thanks so much to my patrons. You guys are awesome, and I will see you next time. Bye! Hey guys, don't forget to follow me on Instagram at Kelly Does Her Thing so that you can follow me through my stories. I hope to see y'all there.